Hello, everybody. You were thinking that maybe bonjour, Tish. You were thinking maybe somebody tried to take my two in the cemeteries. I'm gently walking to our first grave. Hello to California. Hello to everybody. Bonjour au Québec. Comment tout le monde va bien? How are you, all of you? I was looking for a grave that I was searching and haven't found it yet. I'm going to find it. And so but can you hear me correctly? Yes, perfect. So the weather today is good in Paris. Well, less hot than it has been this last day. It has been terrible. This couple of last days, very hot. And today it's better. It's around 24, 25 Celsius in this afternoon. So it's good. It's a beautiful sunny day. And we are in one of the most creepy places of Paris, which is the cemetery. And you will see another creepy place on Saturday because I'm going to do for the first time a home tour from my home, so normal because it's a home tour, and I will try to do for you which is going to be the first time. In fact, I'm going to try to do, because usually I don't do from home, but I've been to the catacomb, and so I'm going to try to stream from home the catacomb. I've made a few movies and prepared a few documents for you, so if you want another creepy, it's going to be the creepy week with me. PERE Lachaise and then the catacomb. So as you can see, it's sunny, and as you can see, I'm walking in the middle of the graves, and we are approaching our first grave. So I'm going to give you couples of information about the cemetery first, if you are not very used to the cemetery of PERE Lachaise, and just way that everybody is connected. And so first, the cemetery of PERE Lachaise is the largest cemetery in France, largest one, largest in Paris, largest in France, and it's also, and that's kind of a incredible reward or award that we can get. The Père Lachaise cemetery, it's the most visited cemetery in the world. Wow! So it means it's a very interesting cemetery, and the cemetery is so big that I've decided to divide it in three parts. This is part number one. You will get in a couple of weeks part number two, and then I will do part number three. And every time we pass by graves and we see different VIP, because if the cemetery is very visited, it's because it is full of VIP. So to give you the history of the cemetery has been built in the 19th centuries. So 200 years ago, it has been built, and at the origin is going to be a complete failure. Why that? We are in the north of Paris. North of Paris is not the most excited and the most nice part of Paris. Secondly, the cemetery is built on a hill. And that's very difficult to walk in because the hill is quite steep. And especially in winter or when it rains, most of the streets are earth, so most of the streets are muddy or even icy during the winter. So the cemetery is quite often closed to the public. Well, not today, not with such a bright day, but quite often closed to the public. And also, as I said, the cemetery is very tiring. So at first, nobody wanted to go into the cemetery, and it was only occupied that something like 10% of the capacity of the cemetery. So the cemetery is going to decide to do something incredible. They're going to decide to move 2%, and we're going to start by this 2% two VIP, two French VIP from where they were to the cemetery. And as soon as these two celebrities arrived in the cemetery, wow, everybody wanted to be buried next to them, you know? I don't know the interest because you're dead, but well, anyway, maybe for the family. So wanted to be buried next to these two people. And suddenly the cemetery get more and more crowded. And we have got nowadays more than 70,000 people which are buried in the cemetery. And the cemetery is still active. It means every year we have got something like 2 or 3 thousand new people buried in the cemetery. To be built, to be buried here, you have to live in the neighborhood. As simple as that. Paris have got four main cemeteries: north, east, south, and west. And we are in what we call the cemetery of the east, which is in fact based in the northeast, but we call it the cemetery of the east. The one from Montmartre is the cemetery of the north. So, who are these two celebrities? Well, I'm just in front of them, so let me introduce you. The grave, the famous grave of Mr. Poquelin. So maybe Mr. Poquelin, that doesn't sound familiar to you because that's the real name of him, but he is very well known, not under the name of Poquelin, but under the name of Molière. You see, this is Jean-Louis Baptiste Poquelin, named Molière, who is, of course, our most important writers, theater directors, and also actors. And he is so important for the French language that we have got the name of our French language named by him. You know, in German we say the language of Goethe, the Spanish say the language of la lingua de Cervantes, and the English say the language of Shakespeare, and the French say la langue de Molière. So just to tell you how that person is important is to tell you that we name our language by him. And so we removed his grave from where it was, in fact, in a very small cemetery in the north of Paris. We removed his grave from where he was located to here. And the second grave is just next to him. It's another very famous writer that you may know about the fable of La Fontaine, you know, like Le Renard et le Corbeau, you know, the crow and the, oh gosh, how you say that? Cunning like forget the name in English, but fox. Thank you. You know, moreover, it was the name of my favorite characters in the X-File, Fox Mulder. So I was already remembering the name of Fox due to Fox Mulder, and today, right now, in front of his grave, I forgot. Thank you. Yes, the fox, the fox and the crow, and many other fable. So you see, in this little part of the cemetery, hidden and protected by these two fences, you have got the two most important or the two most famous French writers. And it's due to them that the cemetery become that famous and that now we have got 10 and 10 and 10,000 of grave because we have got more than 70 people which are going to be buried in that cemetery. So if I just turn like that, my gimbal, without moving, you can realize that I'm in the middle of a huge place, of a huge location, of a huge cemetery. So then you're going to have got a lot of different graves. So right now, this grave is right in the middle of the cemetery. And the cemetery, by the way, is named Père Lachaise because before being a cemetery, it was a monastery of the Company of Jesus, les Jésuites, and the priest who was the confessor of Louis XIV was Père Lachaise, Father Lachaise, and he was living here in that monastery. So that's why the cemetery get the name of him. But it's a nickname, it's a given name because the real name, the official name, is the cemetery of the east of Paris. So, hello everybody, hello Dolores, Rachel, 360 World, Rochelle, and all of you. So as you see, we have got complete different type of grave in the cemetery. You can have a beautiful one like this one. You can have one which look like a little chapel, like a little house. You can have some which have got a statue representing the person who was there, or you can have some very, very simple one. And even though some have been some have been completely deserted and have been completely recovered by the nature. You see, for instance, here you start seeing grave like here, where the trees or um, bushes or flowers or whatever took the place. So you see, look like here, you see that's a grave which is completely broken. You see the columns is behind and the grave is completely broken. So the dead person is under the tree. And the tree took the place of him. And so that's why the cemetery is very creepy too, because you've got all these graves which are half open, and you feel that the dead bodies could go and walk towards you. You see again another one here with the trees inside the graves. You see another grave here which is completely broken. Or here, for instance, you see this, which was at the top of this grave, has been destroyed and fall down. Why? It's not because people destroyed it, it's just because it's getting old, and due to the weather condition, things destroyed. So you see, you've got lots of different type of grapes, and it's because for a long time you have, if you were paying, you could get the grapes for the rest of your life. I mean, of your life, for the eternity, if I can say. Nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, you pay for 99 years. And after 99 years, you have to get a heir who is going to pay for you again for another 99 years. If nobody pays for you, in that case, your dead body is going to be removed from the earth, put in a part with all the other one, and the grave is going to be given to somebody else. So you see, we can think, for instance, this grave here, because you can see the leaves on it, are going to be, nobody is taking care about it. So maybe this grave one day are going to be given, and that's why the cemetery still have got people coming in, because we have also people going out from the cemetery, in a sense, of course, because they don't really go out. And you see, it's like if we're in a forest. So this is very impressive because we are surrounded by trees, by grass, by earth street. So you really feel to be completely in the nature, and you hear the birds, you see the cats. It's a very wild cemetery. Are the people underneath? Yes, yes, yes. The two first one I show you, Molière and La Fontaine, are very, very, very famous. And so now we're going to go down from where we are to go to see another very famous person. She's a lady, because of course there is a men's and lady in the cemetery. There is no also different. There is no something divided by religion. All the religions are mixed together. So you can have a Jewish person next to a Muslim, and a Muslim next to a Protestant, and like that, or next to a Chinese, or whatever. I mean, all the religions are mixed together, and so in this old partition, like that's what I mean. It's a bit creepy, you know. When you think here, you can see it's like if somebody tried to put his hands through the hole and say, "Hey, can you come to collect me?" No, I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like. So you see, we're really in the old part of the cemetery, and I just don't realize, but I'm just walking on a grave, because I didn't even realize there was a grave. I thought it was just a piece of earth, and in fact, it was a grave. You hear the birds? So lots of peoples come to the cemetery also to, let's say, study or have a peaceful time. I mean, not the dead, but the alive people. Jodassin, I'm not sure about that, but somebody say yes. So, but I don't know where its grave is. As I told you, 70,000 dead people. And so you see again here, his grave here. Look, so I don't know who is he, but you see, we walk, the dead body is somewhere here, and the tree has taken the place. I even can't read the name. You see, there is name written here, but I can't read it. So I don't know who is buried here. range. Everybody can do what they want, everybody can do, for instance, can do like this one. Okay, this is a part of the family of Victor Hugo, by the way. Well, it's not Victor Hugo here, but this is people from the Hugo family. And so people, you see, can have kind of pyramid like that. Some of the people prefer to have a kind of coat of arms. Some of the people prefer to have a kind of a little chapel. You see, it's really for the space, the location, and then you pay according to what you can for the monument above the graves. And then you pay the same amount, uh, never mind what type of monument you put, for staying in the cemetery. And then you pay if you want somebody maintains your grave. But if you don't pay for that, if you don't pay the cemetery for the maintenance, in that case, nobody look after the grave. And the grave falls a while. So where we go now, we are going to pass through these graves, which are here, and we're going to see these very, very big monument, which look like a little temple. You see the one behind the trees over there? Oh, yes, and some of the musicians. We pass by the grave of Chopin. Rossini is not far away from where we pass, but we don't see it. And yes, many, many musicians, classical or modern, or jazzmen or singers. Yes, lots of them. But first, we're not going to speak about a musician. We're going to speak about the grave of this countess. It's a countess. She's named the Countess Damidov. So let's go to see that lady. There's also, Chopin and Rossini are composer, but there is also some music player, not only composer. Shall we take that way? Oh yes, let's take that way. A bit more creepy, but sounds nice to go by there. Some grapes. Look, some vineyard in the same. Hoopla. You see, look. I shall come back to get some grapes later on. And as I said, you see, it's not concrete on the floor. It's not asphalt. It's earth. So you can imagine if it's raining, you are in the mud, which is at all not convenient, of course. So the grave I'm speaking about is the one which is here. So you see, you've got a huge base. Then the grave you don't see from here, but it's double size of that because there is a huge base, and then you've got kind of temple on the top. And this one is the grave of the countess or duchess because she married a count and she was a duchess already, a baroness. Sorry, so she was the Countess Demidov and she married a baron who was named Stroganov. And she was a Russian countess and she came to Paris. They lived in Paris and she was awfully rich. And when she died, she made a very strange testimony. She said, if anybody dare to stay for 1 year in my grave, not in my coffin, but in the location of my grave, which is the big graves, if somebody dare to stay for 1 year inside, just to go out for bathroom and things like that, in that case, he will get all my money. And the legend, I don't know if it's a legend, but the story said that few guys tried to stay inside, but all of them, after a couple of weeks, went outside completely crazy by the claustrophobia of staying into the dark place of the grave. So we have to go up, and I have to find a way to go up to see the graves. Maybe the best way is to pass by here. There's some steps over there. Hopla. I can use that little path here in between two graves. So you see this Damidov Countess is very famous because lots of people think this grave is haunted. So why people think this grave is haunted? First, because she's going to have a few symbols about the fact she becomes, when it's the moonlight, she becomes a wolf, so a Wolverine. And why people think that? Because around her graves, you're going to see she put wolf's head. One here, and another one which is here too. And that is going to be all around the graves. And also the date of her death. Let me show you when she died. She died the 8th of April, 1818. So you see in this date you've got 8, 8, 8, 3, 8. And these 3 8s are the figures of these Wolverine people. So, like you've got the 666 or the 333, so here is the 888. So lots of people believe and said that they have seen at night ladies in white, which is strolling in the alley of the cemetery, trying to attract some men to go inside. So I don't know, myself. I never met her, so I'm still fine. But I wouldn't try, I wouldn't dare to speak to her, to a white lady ghost. And if some of you still wants to try to spend 1 year in her graves, I show you where you have to go. You see, you have to go down because this is still the graves, and here you've got the door. You see, you need to ask for the key, and then when you get the key, you are going to be located in the basement of the grave for 365 days. And I don't know if some money are left. So be sure before doing that the testimony is still valid, because I'm not really sure 140 years after that all the money hasn't been spent. Do you see how big is the graves? Interesting story, no, about this Comtesse Demidov. And here when we are at the side, again, here you can see the wolf's head. Well, the carving on the side are linked to the job of the husband. He was chasing. He was doing furs. The furs from the little animal, a loutre. I don't know how to call that animal in English. It's a kind of little this little animal here. It's a loutre. So he was taking them from Russia, killing this little animal to make furs for the ladies. Mink. Okay. Thank you. And then different symbols of the family, and here you've got kind of a representing a kind of a big curtain just to decorate the graves. So you see, if I turn my gimbal to show you the other side, you see how big, how tall is the graves. Uh, Myself, I hardly arrive here, just to show you the size of it. Okay, let's go down. Still going down to the cemetery, to go to some other parts of the cemetery, to try to discover some other graves in the cemetery. Cemetery, because people sometimes hear cemetery when I mean cemetery. It's just because I don't put the accent at the right position, because in French we say cimetière. So you see, we don't have any tonic accent in French, cimetière. So due to that, we don't say cemetery. Cemetery. Can you write her names? No, I can't. I can't write the name. It's called Demidoff. I have no way to write the names on the Heigo platform. I think you can. You want to spend 1 year with her, Janine? I see that. So some of the alley, like where we are now, are big alley, because also we need to be able to have some car before it was coaches, carriage, to come to bring the grapes. So some alley like this one are really big, and they are with cobblestone to let when there is a ceremony of funerals to let the cars, and also to have the car from the cemetery itself to be able to be there, to be able to maintain and to have tools and things like that. So some of the alley are used by the car, and you are authorized to enter with a car, but of course it's not fortunate because it means you've got a ceremony of somebody of one of your relatives. So the cemetery authorize you to go inside the cemetery with a car, because the cemetery from down to top or from east to west, it's very very long. I come back here on Tuesday with Natalie. Well, one of your friends, one of your viewers, who's have family these days in Paris, and I'm guiding her for 3 days. That's great. So I'm guiding her yesterday. I do tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And the day after tomorrow we come back here. So she's going to realize how difficult it is because when you are with me, you just see the image. You don't have to. You don't have to walk in. Yes, the vampire princess. That's what I meant. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure about it, okay? But lots of people believe very, very strongly. And myself, I don't want to believe or not not to believe. I just prefer not to think too much about that because a part of that, I don't know how I'm going to finish every time I come here for the visit. And you were speaking about singer or music composer. So here, for instance, you've got a French one, and his daughter is singing now. He's called Alain Bachung. So I don't know if you know him. He died in 2009. His name Alain Bachung, and you see, it's a bit like Oscar Wilde. Lots of girls came and give a lipstick kiss on the grave of Bachung. He was a kind of a rock singer. That's Bachung. So I don't know if you know him, but he's a music composer, but not classic. Yes, Chopin. We're going to arrive in a couple of minutes. But as you see, I've been down, but now I go up. That's the key in symmetry. It's never flat. When you go from one place to another place, you have to go up and down. So you get very quickly tired, especially a day like today when it's hot. Happily, I've got some water with me. So in the cemetery, there's also a big chapel for the ceremony. So when you want to have the ceremony inside the cemetery, so you can of course make the religious ceremony in the type of um, office, I mean, building according to religion where you want, or if it's Catholic, you can come to the chapel, which is in the cemetery right here. So that the chapel with the cross over there. So you can directly make the religious ceremony and plus the rest of the ceremony inside the cemetery. And just next to that big place, you have got a grave of somebody else who is very, very famous. He painted that painting, which is the raft. So here you've got a bronze of his painting on his grave. French painter who painted the raft of Medusa. It's in the Louvre. I was there yesterday with Natalie and I could show her. So nobody tell me the name. Try to remember. If you came with me to the Louvre, I show you this painting, the raft of the Medusa by. Okay, I show you. I show him to you. I don't show the name, but I already show the person. You see him lying down with his palette of painting, and his name is Géricault, Théodore Géricault. Yes, Elisa Géricault, absolutely. Géricault. Yeah, and the painting is unfortunately bit by bit fading due to the age and to the lights and the quality of the colors are bit by bit fading. So unfortunately, either we are going to renovate it or either we're going to lose in a couple of decades. So when you come to Paris, when you come to the Louvre, have a look at this incredible painting. I'm just going to pass by a grave of somebody which is not very well known, and I don't care, but because I like so much the symbolic of these graves. And this couple, well, this is the man who is buried here, this couple with his wife, I like it so much that I just passed by the place where he's buried. It's here. And so it's an unknown person, so it doesn't really matter who is he. But you see, he wrote that sentence at the feet of his grave. It said, "Ils furent émerveillés du beau voyage qui les mena jusqu'au bout de la vie. They have been astonished by the beautiful trip which brought them to the end of the life." No, it's not liberty leading the people. It's the raft of the Medusa. Liberty guiding the people is from Jeanne de la Croix. So, what do you think this man is holding in his hand? Look, you see, he's holding something. No, what do you think that man is holding to show his love? The head, her face. Yes, absolutely. He's holding the face of his wife. And you see, they are watching each other for the eternity. And what a kind of beautiful proof of love to want to be buried. Oh, look, there's a crow just here. Look at the crow. You saw the big crow? That is full of crow. Look, look, look. Ooh, 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 ooh. Don't come to me. I don't want to see you. Just stay over there. Yes, go that way. Better. So let's go back to them. I was just checking the crow wasn't going to bite my legs or I don't know what else. So it's beautiful, so romantic, no? And you see that it's a bronze, so the bronze is also affected, oxided by the that it looks like if she's crying, even if it's just the oxidation, it looks like if she's crying. So we carry our journey in the cemetery. We have got 10 minutes more together, so let's use these 10 minutes to introduce you to two very famous persons in the cemetery. Well, there is something like 10 extra super VIP. You saw one, you saw already two. I mean, you saw Molière and La Fontaine, extra VIP. There's some that we won't see in this tour, like Edith Piaf or or Oscar Wilde, but we're going to see two other. It, it, it's in the part two. Uh, so we're going to see another one. Why did I'm just turning the wrong way myself? Am I stupid or what? This is the way I want to go, but it's like a maze. If you don't know the cemetery, you get easily lost. And you are not lost in translation, like the movie, you are lost in the cemetery. This is the grave of a French sculptor named Armand. And you see here, it's one of his sculpting, a violin. And here there's a grave which is completely destroyed. Here there's another composer and singer named Mano Solo. He's a French composer, Mano Solo. And as you can see, unfortunately, he's dead too. And now we're going to see the grave of what I think it's Anne who spoke about. We're going to go to see the grave of Chopin. That's where the people are. Of course, it's one of the graves which is always very visited, a very famous grave. So white and red because this is the color of the flag from Poland, of course, because Chopin was Polish. So this is the grave of Frédéric Chopin, and that grave has something very particular. Grave but we don't have his heart because his heart is buried in Warsaw, in Warsaw, in Varsovia. Why that? Because Frédéric Chopin was afraid that he could be buried alive. So he asked, the day you said, when the doctor said, I'm dead, please take out the heart of my body and bury the heart in my Poland and bury my body in my France. So that's why in this grave in Paris, we have got his dead body, and in Poland, they have got the heart. And the sculpting above represents the muse of the music. You see, she's having a little harp. So now for the last minute, we're going to walk to another very, 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 very famous grave. Another very, very, very famous one, which is the grave of another music composer, but not a classical one. He was also a singer, and in fact, it is the grave which is the most visited in the whole cemetery. Cemetery. I will finish by saying the word correctly once or late. So maybe you know who is that person, the most visited grave in the cemetery, a singer. Yes, absolutely, Laura. Jim Morrison. So we're going to have a look at the grave of Jim Morrison. Uh, you may be surprised because the grave is quite a small grave. So Jim Morrison was really often in Paris, and he loved the city of Paris. And he died in Paris, and young, with maybe too much alcohol and too much drugs. But anyway, he died in Paris, and he has been buried here in the Père Lachaise. And his grave is very, very well hidden, and it's very difficult to find it. When you don't know where the grave is, you can spend hours in the cemetery to look for it. And even myself, where I know it is, I don't want to take the risk of taking a shortcut because sometimes the shortcut doesn't bring you where you want. So I take the long distance walk to be able to be sure to reach the grave in time. And so Jim Morrison, who was this incredible composer, of course, from the Doors, the musical groups, the Doors. And if you have, for instance, the Doors, I love them also in the music of the film, of the movie, Apocalypse Now. And this music that's part of my childhood, or when I was a teenager. I was listening to the Doors, and so lots of people still come to see the grave of Morisson. As I said, they see the most visited graves in the cemetery, and lots of them comes here with a bottle of wine, and they start drinking in front of the grave, like Jim Morrison would have done if it was a friend of him. Oh yes, I do it quite often, Janine, don't worry. So we are arriving to the grave of Morisson, and as you can see, a couple of people around the graves. And the grave is very simple, and Jim Morrison didn't want a huge, impressive grave, and the grave received a lot of little presents, and they even have to put fence. You see, there is fences to avoid the people go to the graves. Well, the fence are not that difficult to go over, but just to remember you, that is better not to go to see it. And hopla, we pass by here, and then here is the grave of Jim Morrison. I'll just leave you a bit in silence with his grave. No. Sorry, just go there. And I also want to show you something very interesting. One, there is a rock journalist who came here, and he asked to his photographer to take a pictures of him. So you see, just right here, the guy is going to stand. This journalist is going to stand in front of the grave of the one behind. And here, over there, you've got another grave. You see that I'm doing that for you to see. And when he made the pictures, I just show you the pictures, that when he developed the pictures, look at that pictures. So you here, okay, you see, this is the pictures. You can see he's standing in front of, and if you look carefully, you will see here, in front of the other grave, in the back, you see a shed, like somebody who is opening his arm like two wings. I don't know if you see in the yellow circle here, and lots of people are sure this is the ghost of Jim Morrison. You see, right here. I bring my heart to him. Impressive, no? You can Google that, and you will see better maybe that I do like that. I show you like that. Can be on the side too. See it? Let's see if we can put that. And as you can see, this is one of the graves which gets the most of people so far we have seen, which are all coming to give a last tribute to Jim Morrison. So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this tour. I realize that it's already nearly we are over time, so I hope it has been not too much overtime for you, and I hope you enjoyed this tour, and so you know a little bit more. So never forget. So looks lots of people here. You see, it's really the graves to see when you come here. So my friend, thank you so much. Don't forget there's two other tour of PERE Lachaise. Okay, so check my channel. So like that, when I will program them, you will be able to see them. Don't forget there is another spooky tour. It's not programmed yet. So far, I've just put the tour of Friday to Crépy-en-Valois. On Saturday, it's going to be by 5 p.m. I think. I'm going to do the tour from home about catacomb. So if you want to see the catacomb, that's going to be the good day to be with me. That will be Saturday evening, and we'll be in the catacomb virtually, of course, because there is no signal 20 meters under the earth. So thank you so much to have been with me today. Thank you for all your donation. Thank you for that. Don't forget your guide. I just living with your donation and your tips. So it's important for us to be able to get that. And I wish you a very, very good end of the day, afternoon, morning, or evening, depends where you are located in the world. And I will see you back on Friday and also on Saturday. Thank you so much to have been with me. Take a great care of yourself. And thank you again for your tip. And see you very soon. Thank you, my friends. Bye bye.